Oh, wow, look, I got new intro music. I got rockin' new intro music because we're in a rockin' environment here in Tampa, Florida, at TPUSA Student Action Summit. And I know you're thinking, Mark Kaye, you're not a student. That's not true. We're always learning. And if you're not learning, you're doing it wrong. You should constantly be in a state of learning something new. And I've learned so much today. For example, here's what I've learned so far at the Student Action Summit in Tampa. Are you ready? I've learned that the Secret Service does not allow bullhorns inside of protected areas. I know. Shocking. Shocking that I learned that the hard way, by the way. And shout out to Laura Loomer, a friend of our show Laura Loomer told me never leave home without a bullhorn, especially in this environment. And I took her advice on that. I never leave home without my bullhorn. I have it in my car all the time. Kids love it. If ever I'm stuck in traffic, I can just turn on the siren effect and boo, it's great. So I decided when I was coming here to Tampa to the Turning Point USA Student Action Summit, I thought, well, I'm definitely taking my bullhorn because the last time I was here, not one, not two, but 3 years ago in 2022, there were protesters. And the protesters had bullhorns and no one else did. And I thought to myself, well, this is great because I can counter-protest. And if the protesters start yelling and screaming into their bullhorn, I can yell and scream into my bullhorn, and wouldn't it just be loud and obnoxious and so much fun? So I'm walking into the arena yesterday, setting up my booth. I have a bullhorn over my shoulder, walk through the security area, and this very polite but stern man in a suit looks at me and says, "Sir, I'm sorry, you cannot bring that bullhorn in here." And I said, why not? He said, it's a Secret Service security violation. And I had like 8 different things, 8 different smart aleck remarks popped into my head. But then I realized this guy's with the Secret Service. And luckily, my smarter half decided not to mouth off to the Secret Service guy because I want to be here for the rest of the weekend. And I said to him, well, it's just a prop. Thinking, I'm thinking, oh, if it's a prop, sure. Like, oh, no, that's just a prop knife, Mr. Secret. But I go, no, it's just a prop. And he goes, oh, I don't care. I go, okay, great. So I said, what if I took out the batteries? He goes, sir, it doesn't matter if there's batteries in it or batteries out of it. It's a bullhorn. You can't bring it in. So I stashed it. They allowed me to stash it in like the little check-in area. And then when I was leaving after setup yesterday, I'll get into the rest of it. I was walking out and I grabbed my bullhorn and I said, thank you very much. And he goes, don't bring that tomorrow. And I said, don't worry. You will never, ever see this bullhorn again. So the caveat to the Laura Loomer rule when it comes to bullhorns is don't leave home without your bullhorn unless you're going to TPUSA's SAS in Tampa or any other Secret Service protected event. Which, speaking of which, by the way, I got in here bright and early to do the 47 Daily morning podcast, which if you haven't downloaded the 47 Daily yet today, do it. It's awesome. We do it every single day. And today we had some great stuff, man. We had some really great stuff going on. And I was in here in Media Row. So this is really interesting. Media Row has really, over the years, I've been at a lot of different Media Rows. I've been at Media Rows at conservative events. I've been at Media Rows at other events, pop events, all kinds of things. And as media itself kind of, goes through the transformation and transitions and, kind of evolves, so does Media Row. For example, in the olden days of like 10 years ago, Media Row was just all radio people. It was all radio people. They all got here bright and early in the morning. They were all screaming in their microphones. They all made the same stupid jokes, played the same stupid sound effects. And, it was just like it was just a bunch of radio folks. Now, there's like 2 radio people, maybe 3. And they all get here early in the morning because that's when people listen to the radio when they're in their cars. And then about between 9 and 11, they kind of leave. And then boom. All the podcasters, all the live streamers, all the news. We've got one Real America's Voice at the end of the row here. They've been going with Steve Bannon and Jack Posobiec and Natalie Winters. They've been going all morning long. Charlie Kirk popped by there. In fact, Charlie Kirk was just a stone's throw away from me here moments ago, and I was kind of hoping that you'd be able to hear, some of the yelling and screaming because it was really exciting. But the other thing is, so this morning I came in and I sat down and the radio people were here and the Secret Service guy comes in with the dog, the German Shepherd, very friendly looking German Shepherd. He had his tongue out, whatever. And he looks at me and he goes, Mr. Kaye? And I look up, I'm like, what? Oh my God, how does the Secret Service guy know my name? But then of course it's behind me in 3-foot letters. So that's how he knows my name. Wait, did I just start some music? Was that me or is it? Hold on. No, that's the thing. There's always music and stuff going on. I always think I'm hitting buttons accidentally, but it's just some other booth around the corner. But I go, oh yeah, that's me, Mr. K. He goes, I need to check your booth with the dog. And I go, okay, great. And I'm thinking he's just going to walk around with the dog. He goes, you need to not be in it. So I go, oh yeah. So I walked out and the dog came in, sniffed around, looking for, I'm sure, some kind of munitions or explosives or something like that. And luckily didn't find any. Not like that time I went to Mar-a-Lago with maybe potentially a weapon in my vehicle. But no, it was much better. Anyway, we're going to have a fantastic time here. Coming up in a little while, I'm going to share with you an interview with Shane War Rhino Crutcher, who, I don't know if you know, this guy's got an incredible story. He's an incredible guy, nice as can be, could kill you with his pinky. If you acted up, he would just take you with his pinky, he could snap you in half. But he's a really great guy. He's one of the people here that we're going to get to. And then we have a stack of interviews lined up later today. So we're going to go live tomorrow. We're going to be pumping out content constantly. I'll be posting constantly. And in fact, this whole event at TPUSA is sponsored by the folks at Rumble, and we've been on Rumble for a very long time. Last night, they invited us to dinner. They said, I got an email saying, you've been invited to the sponsored dinner. And I said, that's fantastic. So we went down. My daughter, who's here, she was here. I don't know where she went. She's probably looking for Charlie Kirk. My daughter was here, and we went down to the dinner. It was sponsored by Rumble. Beautiful buffet. They had steak, and they had ziti, and they had 3 different kinds of salads, and they had broccoli and cauliflower and handmade brownies, and it was just amazing. And we went and we loaded our plates, and we sat down at the table. Rumble came out. They did a presentation. The Turning Point people came out and did it was really a great way to kick off. But they came up to me, and they're like, are you Mark? And I go, I am. And I always go, what gives it away? Is it my big face behind me, or is it my name on my hat? And they go, listen, would you be interested in doing a live from the Rumble booth? And I go, yeah, sure, I'll do that. Because, like I said, they're the sponsor. They have a big, beautiful booth set up right in the corner, and they've got all the professional equipment and everything else. And so I said, yeah, sure, I can do that. They said, great. Let us know what works for you. And I go, okay, no problem. So I wander over there today. I go, hey, what times do you have available? They said, oh, we've scheduled you for 2 o'clock. I was like, oh. Let me check my schedule. Okay, we can make that work. So what we're going to do is we're going to be live streaming here till about 2. We're going to wrap it up, and then I'm going to go down to the Rumble booth, and then get this, we're going to start up a second stream, a brand new. It's going to be back to back. It's going to be a brand new stream, but it's going to be back to back. Mark Kaye Saves the Republic today. One live from my booth here at TPUSA, and one live from the Rumble booth, which is right down the road. Which is very, very exciting. Also, later tonight, I don't know if you know who Haley hold on. I want to make sure that I get this right. It's Haley Karania is her name, and she is part of Dan Bongino's Silverlock. She has a show, which is called, I want to make sure they get it right. It's called Nightly Scroll with Haley Karania. And I'm going to be on Nightly Scroll with Haley Karania tonight at 6. So it's going to be like back to back Mark Kaye on Rumble. You guys are going to be so sick of me on Rumble. You're going to be like, God, don't they have anyone else? Give me some Russell Brand or something. Get this guy. I'm so sick and tired of seeing this guy. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to have some very good time. This whole event is just kicking off. It doesn't actually officially begin on stage till about 4 o'clock today. Charlie Kirk will be taking the stage, and I could roll through the agenda for you. It's I guess I could. You've got Charlie Kirk tonight, Tom Homan, Pete Hegseth is going to be here. Who else? Taking the stage. Tucker. Oh, wait, I hear myself talking. Tucker Carlson is going to be here as well. Who else? Matt Gaetz is going to be here. Laura Ingraham is going to be here. Megyn Kelly. It's just superstars. Jack Posobiec, because I said Steve Bannon. This was the other funny thing. I walked over. I didn't realize. I think I was standing right in front of the camera for Real America News or Real America Voice. So if you were watching earlier today and you saw me just looking up at the screen like an idiot, that's because I didn't realize there was a camera right in front of me. And you know what? It doesn't matter either way. either way, it should be pretty good. Anywho, so we've got so much stuff to talk about. There are a couple of things that I do want to mention. One of them is this whole thing going on with the floods in Texas, because the floods in Texas have now been going on for, I mean, they're over, but the cleanup. In fact, one of our members in my GAIN community, the Golden Age Influencers community, a guy by the name of Mark, he's from there. He's right there from Kerr County, Texas, and he was talking about how there's people that he lost, that he knew, that he grew up with, that the whole place is devastated, and he said he said, man, you know what? It's like a war zone. There's helicopters flying all the time. There's vehicles moving in all the time. There's trucks bringing all kinds of supplies. There's National Guard. He goes, it's like nothing we've ever seen. And of course, you walk out, there's all this devastation everywhere you turn. So it is really kind of a humbling experience, and it's something that no one ever. You don't ever want anyone that you know to have to go through something like that. But it's still something that is being politicized for the left. And it's still something that the Democrats are attacking Donald Trump and his administration for. And that is not shocking, but also totally shocking. Not at all shocking that they're doing it, but, you know, it's something they probably should not do. And Chuck Schumer is, you know, one of the worst of these guys. This guy, I guess when you have nothing left to lose, you just say weird things. He was on the floor of the Senate yesterday continuing to blame President Donald Trump for what happened in Texas.
It's essential for all New Yorkers who need to be protected against extreme weather like flooding, who need the warning, which obviously didn't occur in Texas, that bad, dangerous weather is coming.
So, by the way, there are bigger problems in New York than extreme weather. There are bigger problems in New York than potential flooding. And also, where am I? There I am. Also, we should point out that the alarms and the alerts did go off. There was plenty of warning. There was the appropriate amount of warning. You had a massive torrential downpour. You had a once-in-a-century style flood erupt on these people in Texas, and it happened, in the middle of the night when everyone was asleep, when everything was dark, when it's very difficult to get those alerts to the people that need them. But there's Chuck Schumer, who's in New York City, where you have crime. You know, he's not in New York City, he was in Washington, D.C., but he's from New York. And the crime erupting over the years, drugs and gangs, illegal immigration. How many bigger problems does New York City have than weather alerts? Which, by the way, we should point out also happened, as they usually do. But that's what the left is up to. That's what the left is doing. They're out there just lying, because that's all they really need. That's all they really know how to do. There's another big piece of news too, because I was on something yesterday called the Black Powder Podcast, and it was really an exciting podcast. I'll pull some clips of it later. I haven't had 5 seconds to pull any clips or post anything else other than preparing for these multiple live streams we're going to be doing. But the Black Powder Podcast is hosted by a guy named Marcus from California, and Eric, who's originally from Jacksonville, Florida, but now lives in North Carolina. And there's three of them. It was really a fantastic event, and we were supposed to be it was supposed to be an hour. It was supposed to be like 9 to 10, and it was like 10:30. And I'm still sitting here going, oh my God, it's 10:30. I had no idea. But we had such a fun time. We had such a great experience. But we started talking about some things regarding Donald Trump and his administration. And one of the things that came up was Ukraine, and arming Ukraine and the war going forward. And lo and behold, President Donald Trump has found a workaround to help Ukraine without actually helping Ukraine.
The president said he's disappointed in Russia and told us he thinks he'll have a major statement to make about Russia on Monday. Though when pressed, he did not say what that statement will be. The president also said he just made a deal today with NATO in which he says the U.S. will send weapons to Ukraine through NATO, and NATO is, quote, paying for those weapons 100%, including the Patriot air defenses that Ukraine has been asking for, and that NATO will distribute them.
So President Donald Trump, in his typical way, is not arming Ukraine. He's arming NATO, and then NATO's going to arm Ukraine. This happened a lot in the. It's basically like politics, like in the political realm, right? When you're running for office, like I'm running for Congress, And as someone running for Congress, the total amount that any individual can donate to my campaign is $3,500. So if I have a campaign committee, which I do, and I want to earn money, you can write me a check for $3,500 and I can take it. If it were $3,501, I'm sorry, I'd have to say no, thank you. That's over the FEC recommended guidelines. So what happens? People create super PACs. And super PACs, you can give as much money as you want. You give tens of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. And these super PACs get millions of dollars. That's how they spend. And then they can buy advertising and they can spend money on expensive stuff and they don't have any kind of limitations. It's very similar to that. Donald Trump isn't giving somebody a donation for $3,500. He's giving it to NATO. And then NATO's going to give it to Ukraine. It's a real workaround. We used to do the same thing years ago in the radio industry. It was illegal for example, when I worked in Top 40 Radio, it was against the law for record companies to pay radio stations to get their records on the air. So, for example, if you had a new record and $1 million and you went to a radio station and said, I'm going to give you $25,000 to play my record, they couldn't do it. That's against the law. So the workaround was they hired consultants. And the record company would pay the consultant $25,000. The consultant would then go to the radio station and say, I have $25,000 from the record company. I'm putting it in your account, and you now need to play this record. So the radio station played the record. The record company gave the consultant money. And then when the radio station wanted to buy something like, trips for everybody to go to Barbados for Christmas or, new hats for everybody or a car to give away, they just called the consultant and he bought it with their basic money in the account. Same thing now. Donald Trump has started an account for NATO. He's going to fill it with Patriot missile systems. He's going to fill it with weapon systems. He's going to do all of that. And then NATO's going to distribute it most likely to Ukraine because that's how they do. And then Ukraine's going to continue to fight Russia because that's the issue. Now that's what's happening. You've got Vladimir Putin, who's acting up again. Vladimir Putin, who is still doing things that Donald Trump does not like. He's exacerbating the situation. He's not coming to the table. And so President Donald Trump is saying, look, if you're going to keep fighting, if you're going to keep going, and if you're not going to come to the table diplomatically, then we're just going to give Ukraine more weapons. NATO more weapons to give Ukraine so that they can keep being a thorn in your side, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully, like I said, we can end this whole thing because I don't want Ukraine to become a thing. I don't want, we're still coming off the Epstein files. We don't want Ukraine to become the next Epstein files. We want President Donald Trump to focus on his domestic agenda to make America great again, which is happening. By the way, which is happening. There is so much great stuff going on because of the One Big Beautiful Bill. The One Big Beautiful Bill, when that was passed it was a week ago. Today is, July the 11th. So 7 days ago on July 4th, Donald Trump signed that bill into law. All that money became available. All the expenditures became available. And now what are we starting to see? We are starting to see the effects of that come into play in the Department of Veterans Affairs and the Agriculture Department, Defense Department. All the money that was dedicated is now being spent to create this new golden age, which, by the way, is one of the themes here at TPUSA. One of the themes that they're doing at TPUSA is the new golden age, and they are really embracing it because it is truly the beginning of such. And if you walked around here and you saw the kind of enthusiasm that these people have, if you saw the excitement on everyone's face, then it's truly the beginning of something amazing. But now that we have the money and the OBB, the OBBB has been passed, now we're into let's make it all a reality segment. And that's when it really gets exciting. And Brendan Carr, who is the head of the FCC, and now the head of the FCC, not somebody usually I would promote, just from our past dealings. The head of the FCC, not usually one of the most entertaining or exciting people you want to talk to, but he had a very interesting announcement that I thought was worth sharing, and it all comes from the OBBB.
Yeah, look, President Trump is just racking up the wins, and you can see it in one of the most important segments of our economy and, frankly, national security, which is communications infrastructure and technology leadership. You'll remember during the Biden years, they got $42 billion to connect millions of Americans the internet. That program went nowhere. Not a single shovel worth of dirt was turned. To your point, Spectrum, which is these invisible airwaves that power our phones and all sorts of technology, the Biden administration fell into a deep malaise. We lost our authority to move Spectrum. It went nowhere. President Trump, in just 6 short months, has turned all of that around, including he got our Spectrum auction authority back so that America can once again lead the world. And it's already paying dividends. I mean, look, prices for home internet are already down 3% year over year. And wages for the blue-collar workers that build that out, it's up for the first time, the biggest move up in 60 years in terms of where we are in administration. So quite the winning streak we're on right now.
And so what we're starting to see is, with the FCC and with every other organization, is you're starting to see how the OBBB is being effective in your daily life. And FCC Chairman Brendan Carr is like, look, hey, do you remember when Joe Biden promised everyone we were going to boost the internet infrastructure? Do you remember the $14 billion that the Congress gave to Joe Biden to boost internet infrastructure that he did absolutely nothing with? Well, guess what? Now it's happening. Now that President Donald Trump is in office, now that the OBBB has been passed, now that we have all the money, we're actually going to get the stuff that we were promised for 4 years. And look, not every idea Joe Biden had was horrible. It's just that he was horrible at executing anything. They didn't do anything at all that wasn't politically motivated or beneficial to him and or his family. And so what we're starting to see now is we're starting to see the effects of President Donald Trump, the new golden age, taking the money and turning it into something that we've been promised for a long time, and that is stuff that's really good for America and Americans. It's really kind of cool. All right, I have a guest coming up here in just a minute, so in order to prepare, let me replay my cool intro. Guest is I'm excited. In fact, he came here a little early. I was talking to this little girl from 4-H. She's like 8 years old. And Shane War Rhino Crutchin walks up and they start talking about cows, that's the kind of thing that happens when you come to TPUSA. You have former Marine MMA fighters who are talking to 4-H girls about cows. First of all, Shane, thanks for being here, man.
Hey, absolutely, man. I appreciate it.
It's so great to meet you. And also, I should point out to everybody, War Rhino, while it sounds like a really great nickname, isn't a really great nickname. It's your actual name.
That is my actual name on my driver's license as provided and proven by you.
Yeah, I didn't ask for ID. He's handing me ID. People are like, why is that guy getting carded? What did he do? Is this an ICE raid?
Right.
But no, you are War Rhino denotes what? Combat, battle-tested, hardened person, and you are a former Marine Corps.
Yes, sir. Well, actually not former. You'll always be a Marine. We're the only branch of service that there's no such thing as former.
Yeah. So how long ago did you join? How long have you been a Marine?
Man, I joined in 2002.
Okay.
I was the ripe age of 17.
Right.
I graduated high school at 16, a full year early. 2 days later, I walked into the recruiter's office and joined the United States Marine Corps.
Wow. That is amazing. And then you saw some active combat, I imagine?
Yeah, I went to combat. I served in active combat in 2003, invaded Iraq, and then actually I had my 18th birthday in Baghdad.
You had your 18th birthday in Baghdad?
Amen, yeah. Show me another 18-year-old here at SAS that has that accomplishment under their belt.
What did you do on your 18th birthday in Baghdad?
Pulled guard duty. Happy birthday to me on guard duty, yes, sir.
Well, that's amazing. And now you're in California, right? You're in San Diego.
I'm in San Diego currently.
What's that like to be a current Marine, conservative in a place like California these days?
So being a conservative in California, obviously I like to fight.
Yeah.
If you look at my accolades, I know a thing or two about fighting, especially with my MMA combat career and a military career. I always like to fight, and I like to fight for the little people. So being in California and being a conservative, being part of the ambassador program for Turning Point, speaking around the country for Turning Point is such an honor because I get to show these people it's okay to stand on what you believe in. If you read my shirt, it says, trust God, not government.
Great advice.
And being able to stand on your own principles and not have any trouble with doing so with no fear of retribution is all we can ask for in this world. And that's what I'm trying to show people.
That is fantastic. So you travel the country with Turning Point, and you go to all their events, and you inspire young people, which, by the way, the thing about this event is it really has
turned the corner for Gen Z.
Oh, yeah.
Turning Point has created a brand new generation of conservatives at a time when I think we were at risk of losing the entire group.
I think we were at a pivotal time when Charlie came into the picture.
Yeah.
And started
Charlie
out
Kirk,
of
by the way.
Charlie Kirk came into the picture, starting this whole Turning Point USA out of the trunk of his car, just having debates.
Yeah.
How can you ask a man that drops out of college to do that and think that it was going to grow to the monster that it is today?
Yeah.
I've had a lot of really close friends in this organization, and to be around and now to be considered an influencer isn't something I ever wanted. It's just something that came, and it came because I see these younger people. I see the interviewers. I'll never turn down an interview from these emails of these 15, 16-year-old kids saying, I have a podcast.
Right.
You're like, wait, I remember how hard it was for me to get into politics.
Oh, yeah.
You want to be in politics? By all means, I am at your pleasure. Let's go. Let's get an interview in. So it's really cool to see Gen Z stand up, because when I was young, and I know you can attest, you went by what your parents said. And your parents just were like, hey, I like this or I like this.
Yeah.
You see this new generation of Gen Z guys, no longer the millennial party. It's now the Gen Z. Gen Z is tomorrow's congressional party of the Republican movement.
Absolutely.
You have to stand and give them the power they deserve and the voice they need. And here it is. I think we're at a pivotal time, and I think we're going to really launch a new thing.
It really is amazing. My daughter has her own podcast now, and she's into, she's a Christian conservative podcaster, and it's true. I see these young kids interested in things that I played video games and, talked about girls and stuff like that. They're debating political issues. They know who their Congress people are. I didn't know who my congressperson was when I was younger. Now I'm running for Congress, which is a total 180, but you're very politically active. In fact, you said you may have a big announcement we can't get into yet, but you've got some exciting stuff coming up.
I have some very powerful people within the GOP, current and former, as well as very powerful people backing me for a pretty important message and announcement coming out, hopefully September. And if God continues to bless me in that movement, I just think that it's the next move of my political alleyway, if you will, of going down and knocking on doors, if that gives any hint. But you need to sometimes stand up and not be scared of being canceled.
Yeah.
That's one thing I'm not scared of. I was arrested and raided in 2020, opening up my jiu-jitsu academy, made the front page of the newspaper.
In California?
In California.
Yeah, of course.
And it said on May 4th, so I did it on May Day. May 4th,
Wow.
I opened up my jiu-jitsu academy, and the front page of the newspaper said, black belt, opens up gym, defies governor's orders.
Right.
And underneath the caption of the picture said, local black belt Purple Heart recipient opens jiu-jitsu academy, no masks, defies governor's orders. I got raided the next day at my house. I got
at your house. They didn't even come to your business.
They got me at 6 a.m.
Whoa! Wait a minute. That seems not right at all.
It almost seems like militarization of the government. Correct?
I believe that does. Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out there. They raided me and put a cease and desist on my gym, and the people ended up coming to the gym and putting a cease and desist letter. I talked to the other people at the gym and I said, "We're running this," and they went, "All right, if that's your call." And I was like, "Let's go." And we opened up and we stayed open every day.
Did they fine you? That's what they usually do.
I got a giant fine.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where they called the owner of the property, trying to get him to cancel my lease. The owner of the property was a really close friend, and he was like, "Nope,
I'm not going to do that.
We're running it."
Was that Newsom too, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that guy, Gavin
How
Newsom.
in the world is he even starting to campaign for president?
I was going to ask you the same thing. How is he even governor? I mean, the recall I thought was a shoo-in, but
I thought we had the nail in the coffin with the recall. I helped with that. I helped gather signatures. I helped at different rallies for 1776 Forever Free.
Yeah.
I helped with those. And where in the world? Okay, I can kind of see why he might have won the recall.
Okay, yeah.
But where in his brain does it fathom? It's almost as bad as Kamala Harris getting placed without an election into the presidential election seats.
By the way, she might be your next governor.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I'm going to cause some stir on that one.
Yeah, I think you should. So you did, Marine Corps, jiu-jitsu, MMA, you could pretty much kill anybody in, 30 seconds or less? Is that...
I like to call it. I like to fold laundry with people inside of it.
That makes perfect sense. And MMA, how long did you fight MMA? You had an injury that stopped your career, but how long were you doing that?
17 years active.
17 years seems like a very long MMA career.
It was. It's easier to ttell you what I haven't broken than it is to tell you what I have broken.
Right, I would imagine. I heard that Donald Trump is going to be hosting an MMA fight at the White House. First, he put in giant American flags. Now he's going to put in like an octagon or something.
Yep.
What do you think about that? What do you think about the melding of politics and this particular sport, which until maybe like even 10, 15 years ago wasn't even this mainstream?
Well, Donald Trump is actually the reason the UFC is even around.
Yeah.
Donald Trump's the reason the UFC, and Dana White attests to that profusely.
Sure.
If you really look at, again, we're going to bring this back to the Gen Z population.
Right.
Gen Z loves combat.
Yeah.
It's a true American gladiator sport, not even just American, global sport that actually has these people fight hand in hand.
Yeah.
So if you look at what Donald Trump is doing, I think it's another pivotal point in bringing Gen Z to the forefront of politics, because it's going to, okay, I don't care how much hate is thrown on him. Donald Trump is doing things that is revolutionary to the next generation.
Yeah.
Also, little unknown fact, Donald Trump's not the first person to have live sports held at the White House?
I did not know that.
Yes.
It makes sense, though. Teddy Roosevelt probably.
Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah.
He held a judo competition at the White House, so people can't say that. There's been 3 presidents that have had baseball games at the White House. George Bush Jr. being the last one.
Yeah.
There's been judo. There's been shooting competitions at the White House way back when.
Sure.
So if you look at combat sports, they've been around forever.
Yeah.
It just, in today's political world, anything that you can hate on Donald Trump, people are going to do it.
Yeah.
I think he is the most pivotal president of modern history of anybody being alive that can remember, most pivotal and progressive shooting president that's going to change the globe and change politics forever. He did it in 2016. He's doing it again in 2024 and in forward. And forever, the climate of the new political landscape will never be again what it was.
Yeah. Bill Clinton, by the way, played tonsil hockey at the
he
White
did.
House as well, among some other things. The interesting thing about sports and this competition, and now that you think about it too, I think it's also very important, not just politically, but socially, because we had this whole, feminization of the young man, and we had the erasing of testosterone and the whole, we've got to make sure that there's this toxic masculinity that's been kind of squashed. But I think what Donald Trump has done is really made it okay for, dudes to be dudes again.
I think a big push of that also. Big shout out to Bo Loudon.
Oh yeah,
I love Bo.
He's
Bo's a good friend of mine.
Yep.
Donald Trump Jr. has gone above and beyond to really push and put a shining light that it's okay to be a man.
Yeah.
People like your daughter, my daughter, they need positive Christian men in their lives to lead. A feminine man wearing skinny jeans that can't even count to 10 and doesn't know what sexy is should not lead a woman or anything in this world. They should be I think they should be put in a camp and taught what masculinity is again.
Sure.
That's my personal belief. And I can't stand when I get yelled at by these, and I get yelled by these people that don't even know what their pronouns are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is this?
Yeah.
I pulled my daughter out of public school because of the mask, because of the pronoun crap and all this. I've spoken at I'm known as one of the terrorists in San Diego because I go to all the school board meetings. I spoke at...
Oh, you're that guy.
Oh, I'm that guy. And I spoke at Women's History Month in Oceanside, California.
I wish I'd been there.
Oh, you would have loved it. So they passed a ruling stating that Women's History Month, only black and non-binary women could and women of color could be recognized for Women's History Month. Women, white women, Caucasian women were not to be recognized because it wasn't inclusive.
Oh. But
that up.
That doesn't really make any.
So
I guess in liberal math that makes sense. Yeah.
Liberal math. It's kind of like women's math, right? And my fiance is really good with that women's math stuff. But no, we have if you rewind and you look at that, and I try to break this down.
Yeah.
I'm a son of an immigrant, and I'm very proud of this. And I'm first generation in America. I look back and I'm thinking my ancestors would have thrown up and puked at what's going on.
Yeah.
How can you have someone with male genitalia being recognized for Women's History Month prior to a actual born woman that is very proud, and because they're white, it makes no sense.
Well, and it goes back to sports, too, and you know this because you're big into boxing and fighting and everything else. I mean, we talked about men and women's sports at the Olympics. A man hitting a woman, it doesn't matter how little training he has, it's not a fair advantage. It's dangerous, and it's totally unacceptable. And now, again, thank God for Donald Trump and the Republicans. We're getting that all out of there. Real quick, I have to ask you about the cow, because you grew up in Wisconsin on a dairy farm, and you had a cow.
I did. I had numerous dairy cows, and I love. So I actually raised and showed a cow at the FFA World Championships in 2019.
And did you win?
I have a medal at my house, which is the most ridiculous thing in the world. It makes no sense. It was an FFA championship. It makes no sense to have. I look back and you have to sometimes draw out your accolades.
Right.
What have I done in life? Raising a cow is one that people don't recognize, or they're not used to or ready for.
Sure. But you've got a Purple Heart. You've got MMA titles. You're a successful businessman. You're a TPUSA ambassador. And, of course, you raised a championship cow in Wisconsin. I don't know. It all makes perfect sense to me. It's just
I'm from Wisconsin. I don't know what quitting is.
You got that all-around winner mentality. Shane, War Rhino Kutchin, hey, thanks so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Where can people find out more about you if they want to go to your website or your Instagram? What do you like?
Absolutely. So my website for my company is warrhinoinc.com. My Instagram is war, W-A-R _RHINO, like the animal.
Right.
And
like the animal, not the Republican in name only.
Yeah. Matt Gaetz is a good friend of mine.
Yeah, I know him well.
And one of his best lines was War Rhino. He goes, perfect slogan for you. The only rhino that deserves to be in politics. And
that's a very Matt Gaetz line.
I was dead laughing when I heard this. So I'm going to adopt that, Matt Gaetz. I'm stealing that. That's now mine. That's proprietary property. But no, it's funny. So. You can find me on that. The same, I think everything other than my Twitter. Twitter is S Crutchin MMA.
Okay.
But I don't really use Twitter.
Right.
Unfortunately, I use a lot of Truth Social, and it's war_rhino on Truth.
War Rhino, WAR _Rhino, Rhino, RHINO. Legal name, by the way, not just a kitschy nickname, legal name. The only rhino who should be in politics, courtesy of Matt Gaetz. What time do you speak? Are you up on the main stage?
No, I'm not on the main stage today.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm just running around today. Today they want me to be a face.
Yeah, well, you're a very recognizable face. Hey, thanks so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark.
This is Kaye Saves the Republic, and we are live in Tampa, Florida. We're at the SAS.
And I was War Rhino Crutcher, Shane War Rhino Crutchin. And I got to be honest with you, if anyone should change their name to War Rhino, it's that guy, because he encompasses everything you would think that a War Rhino would encompass. I'll be honest, it's amazing when you get here, because you realize, and if you've never been to one of these events, there's events all over the country, not just TPUSA events, but conservative events, whether it's CPAC or whether it's something else. And coming to a conservative event like this one, especially, it reignites you for a couple of reasons. First of all, you realize there's a lot of other people like you, and if you're there's a lot of people that come here from places like California, New York, other places where you don't have this kind of conglomeration, if you will, of conservatism. There's a lot of people that come here because they're trying to find that common bond. Living in Florida, I can just walk out my house and bump into a whole bunch of freedom-loving or liberty-loving, freedom-defending patriots. But if you're in a place like California, you don't see that a lot. So, and that's where you really get, for example, his story when he was talking about opening up his jiu-jitsu gym and being raided by Governor Gavin Newsom because it was COVID. That's exactly that kind of thing. If you live in a red state, you've never really experienced that. You've heard stories, you've heard the tales being told, but these are the guys that had to live it and had to go through it, and really had to, who had to brave the fight every single day. And they all come to these events. And I think it's really great for those of us who take advantage of living in red states to realize that that's not how That's not how everybody's experience is. And there's tons of people. Now, later on today, we have, like I said, they're bringing in some heavy hitters. We've got Erica Donalds, who's Byron Donalds' wife. She may soon be the First Lady of Florida. She's going to swing by. Byron Donalds is here too, but I think that what happens is, I think he's just coming in to speak, and then he's got to go back because they're voting. There's votes today. Don't forget, it's a work day, surprisingly, for folks in the Congress, which we don't usually we forget. Oh yeah, those people don't do any work, because typically they're always gaveling out and they're not really doing anything. But there's some rescissions packages coming through that President Donald Trump wants the Republicans to pay close attention to. Now, Donald Trump himself is in Texas. He's in Kaye County, Texas. He and the First Lady flew down there. I think they just got off the plane and they're taking a helicopter to the flood zone to meet with folks and to speak and that kind of thing. We're going to see if there's some remarks that happen here in the next few minutes. We'll bring them to you. But President Donald Trump, he posted this on... Let me pull myself in here so you can see me. There we go. He posted this on his Truth Social account about one of the rescissions packages that's coming up a little later on today. Let me just share it with you here so you can see it. He wrote, "It is very important that all Republicans adhere to my rescissions bill, and in particular, defund the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, PBS and NPR, which is worse than CNN and MSDNC put together. Any Republican that votes to allow this monstrosity to continue broadcasting will not have my support or endorsement. Thank you for your attention to this matter." This is super important for a couple of reasons. For everybody that was concerned that there wasn't enough wasteful spending cut in the OBBB, that the One Big Beautiful bill didn't cut out enough wasteful spending, well, these rescissions bills and these rescissions packages that are coming through Congress, that's the way that the DOGE cuts are going to be codified. That's how Donald Trump and the Republican Party now have the opportunity and the ability to codify those DOGE cuts and save the hundreds of billions of dollars that Elon Musk and his crew, big balls and the like, that they found that they want to get rid of. And Donald Trump said this is one of the things that we're doing. These rescissions packages are going to be being voted on every single week, hopefully, by the Republicans. And this particular rescissions package defunds PBS and NPR, which President Donald Trump says are worse than CNN and MSNBC put together. And I have to agree, because they really are. You want to talk about state-sponsored media. The only place where you will find state-sponsored media like PBS and NPR are places like Russia, places like, Iran, places like North Korea, where the government funds these organizations, and then they spew whatever rhetoric or propaganda or lies that particular government tells them to spew. They go out there and they start making, I'm not going to go, we've gone through the lists and lists of all the programming that they've come up with your tax dollars, the programming that they've come up with bizarre sexual fetishes and all kinds of questionable content. And that's money that you're paying for because that was funded by the government. No more. And my personal vendetta with PBS is that for all the years that I was in radio, for all the years that I was in corporate radio, these folks, think about this. Think about how bad you have to be at business, okay? PBS, whether it's public broadcasting television or NPR, National Public Radio, these folks get money from the government to exist. So they create these programs and they hire people and they've got their studios and the government's funding it. On top of that, they then go out to the individual listeners and they say to the listeners, you like what we're doing here? Give us more money. If you want to keep this program on the air, give us more money. And they have these telethons and they have these fundraisers and they make millions of dollars from their listeners. They give out tote bags and God knows what else. And then on top of that, they go out and they sell advertising just like you would if you were a traditional corporate medium. And so you've got these people triple dipping. They've got money coming in from the government. They've got money coming in from donations, and they're selling advertising. They're competing with private broadcast companies, while at the same time, they're getting two other streams of income that private broadcasting companies aren't entitled to or aren't allowed to take advantage of. And they're still failing. They're still begging for money. And all that money they get, it's because their programming stinks. And Donald Trump says no more. Donald Trump's like, cut off the funding. If you want to be if you want to make this kind of stuff, you've got to do what every other media company does, and you've got to go out and you've got to find somebody else to pay for it, because the federal government isn't going to pay for it anymore, unless, of course, this rescissions package doesn't get voted on. And look at his stern warning to Republicans in 2026. If you allow this monstrosity to continue broadcasting, you will not have my support or endorsement. Donald Trump knows. Donald Trump knows after passing the OBBB, after the one big beautiful bill passed, he understands and he gets that the power that he has going into the midterms. And if you're a member of Congress right now, if you're starting to fire up your campaign, if you're starting to look at the landscape for 2026, then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, I'm going to need Donald Trump's endorsement. I'm going to need Donald Trump's support. I'm going to need Donald Trump to fly into town and put his arm around my shoulder while standing on a big stage in front of hundreds of thousands of MAGA loyalists and conservatives. That would really help my campaign. I better vote for this rescissions package, and I better defund PBS and NPR, or else Donald Trump's not going to support me. And we all know how important that support is going into the midterm elections. Well, unless of course you're me. In which case, I'll be probably going endorsementless. Although I don't know, a lot of people that have been walking by the booth. Let me pull myself back into full screen here. A lot of people have been walking by the booth. They've been asking about my hat because I'm wearing this hat. In fact, I wore the red one today. I brought multiple different colors. I got a bunch of samples. I have a blue one, a lovely navy blue, which I brought. I wore that last night on the Black Powder podcast. I have a gray one, which I might wear a little later on, and I've been sporting this red one. It's kind of eye-catching. And then I've got, here, I've got my traditional, I'm going to switch up. I got the traditional white one, which is available, by the way, to any and everybody who wants one. And here's the thing. The official Mark Kaye for Congress ball cap, $50 donation gets you one. In fact, let me pull up the screen here real quick so you can take a look at it. But everybody's been looking at my hat. And sometimes I forget that I have my name everywhere. It's really weird. You would think, I guess I'm so used to it, but people come up to me, they'll say, "Are you Mark?" And I'll go, "Yeah, how do you know that?" And they go, "It's on your hat and it's on your sticker and it's right behind you in big bold letters." But I've been wearing this hat around, and people come up and say, "Are you running for Congress?" And I said, "Yeah." And they go, "Do you have Donald Trump's endorsement?" I go, "I don't think, not yet." But the more I talk to people and the more we discuss what's going to happen in 2026, the more confidence I have. I'm a pretty confident guy, but the more confidence I have that this is a winnable race. And there are actually people who don't live in our district who know my opponent, if he indeed becomes the opponent, but who realize, Donald Trump's endorsement is super important. But Donald Trump also is the kind of person that likes to back winners. And if you can prove that you're a winner, even before the competition happens, you're more likely to get Donald Trump's backing. The one thing Donald Trump does not want to do is endorse a bunch of candidates who go on to lose at the polls. He wants his endorsement to carry weight. He wants his endorsement to carry clout. And, well, in this instance, he wants his endorsement to get him what he wants out of Congress, which is happening. So it's really kind of interesting. And the goal now is to get as much early support as we possibly can, not just politically, but out there in the open, and also, of course, financially. So if you want a Mark Kaye for Congress official ball cap, any $50 donation or more will get you a Mark Kaye for Congress official ball cap. If you want it signed, all you have to do is pony up $500. We'll put that in the mail, and you'll have a one-of-a-kind. That's a lie. It's not one of a kind. We've already sent out like 6 of those. We've already sent out 6 signed ones. So it's not one of a kind, but it's a limited edition for sure. It's a limited edition ball cap, which is very, very exciting. Also, I do have coming up on August 18th, if you're in the Jacksonville Beach area, one of our first live rallies. It's going to be at Sneaker Sports Grill. More of that on the way. We've got more of that coming up. But somebody else, I want to talk a little bit. This support thing is really interesting because when we talk about elections, when we talk about things happening in the next year, one of the elections that's really already taken center stage is this election in New York for mayor with Zoran Mamdani. And the reason why this election with Zoran Mamdani is so important is because the dude is basically a pro-Islamic, pro-Hamas, anti-Semite leader who's a socialist, who's he's a communist. And New York City is the biggest and largest economic center in the United States of America. It also has the largest Jewish population outside of Israel, outside of Jerusalem for a major city. So it's really quizzical that this guy could rise to power so quickly. And it's really interesting how this guy could rise to power in a place like New York City and get to where he is. But when you have AOC in your corner, I guess that's kind of what happens. But Donald Trump has been speaking out against him. A lot of other Republicans have been speaking out against him. Only one Democrat has come out against Zoran Mamdani. And it is, not shockingly at all, John Fetterman. John Fetterman, the only Democrat senator I know who's lived through a stroke recently, and also, consequently, has more common sense than any other Democrat senator. John Fetterman, who repeatedly says the most commonsensical things, who repeatedly has, it seems, the best head on his shoulders, even though we didn't know if his head was ever going to be screwed on right after about a couple years ago. So John Fetterman is now being interviewed about Zoran Mamdani because of some of the comments he's made. Listen to this. This is a Fox News clip. Listen to what John Fetterman said, his latest clip about Zoran Mamdani, the front runner for mayor of New York.
I'm not a voter in New York City, and so I have no dog in that fight. And everything that I've read on him, I don't really agree with virtually any of it politically. So that's just where I'm at as a Democrat. I mean, he's not even a Democrat, honestly.
By the way, fun fact, he's wrong about not having a dog in the fight. The mayor of New York City, that is a fight that we all have a dog in. Whoever is the mayor of New York City, that is important for everybody nationwide. When I was being interviewed yesterday on the Black Powder podcast, somebody said that. Because, they said, look, if you live in Florida's 5th District, Mark Kaye needs your support. If you don't live in Florida's 5th District, know that this is a federal position. Congress is a federal position. So you want conservatives, as many as we can jam in there, in Congress. The same is true of New York. It's not a federal position, but New York City is so important to the structure, the economic stability of the United States of America. It's a tourism capital. It brings in a lot of money. And as New York City goes, New York State goes. And as New York State goes, a lot of the Northeast goes too. If we can keep communism out of New York City, and really if we could get conservatism back into New York City, I mean, Curtis Sliwa is about as close as we're going to get, and he's a long shot for sure. But if we could get someone who even is a modicum of conservatism, remembers what Rudy Giuliani was like in New York City, and those were the heydays. I mean, that could reverse New York City. What New York City really needs is a Donald Trump. What Donald Trump has done for the United States of America, both domestically and on the world stage in the last 6 months, is what we need someone to do for New York City. And Rudy Giuliani did it. Rudy Giuliani came to power and he cleaned up New York City. He got rid of the homeless problem. He got rid of the crime problem. He cleaned up the subways. He cleaned up the taxis. He made tourism great again. He cleaned up Times Square. He got rid of the peep shows and the XXX theaters. Now there's like a Hello Kitty store and a Ripley's Believe It or Not museum and all that other kitschy touristy crap. It doesn't matter. It made the place safe. And then when he left, when he term limited out, it became this slow decline back to where it is. And then, of course, under Bill de Blasio with the George Floyd crap and the Black Lives Matter stuff, they basically just destroyed the city. And it's going to be very difficult for anyone to bring it back. After COVID and Andrew Cuomo, I mean, and then you had the Roosevelt Hotel being taken over by illegal immigrants. After all of that, again, very difficult for anybody to bring it back. And the worst thing, the nail in the coffin, the end of the road for New York City would be if somebody like Zoran Mamdani became the mayor. And that is why John Fetterman is wrong. He does have a dog in the fight. We all do. And when it comes to mayoral elections, there are very few that we should all be involved with and impressed with and keep our eye on and be focused on and try to sway no matter where you live. And New York is one of them. Listen, we've got so much going on today. I've got to wrap this up, but then here's the deal. Don't forget, the broadcast continues. We're going to shimmy on down the road to the Rumble studio. At TPUSA, it is, I wish I could take a wide shot for you, but you probably hear all the commotion, you probably hear all the action. Down at the end of the road over here, we've got Real America's Voice, and they have a huge setup, a stage. They're broadcasting live all weekend long. Charlie Kirk has been there, Jack Posobiec. War Room was there live with Natalie Winter and the illustrious Steve Bannon, who Man, you want to talk about... Steve Bannon walks into a room, steps up on a stage, and it is incredible. There's a roar, a thunderous amount of applause. Down over here, we have the Rumble booth, like I said before, and we've got other in between. There's just a ton of Breitbart is here. So we're going to be making the rounds, but in about 15 minutes or so, we're going to bring the live stream back on all of our platforms from the Rumble studio, which is way nicer than my setup. And I'm going to bring on some special guests. We're going to have some more interviews, and then tomorrow, get this, we are also going to go live tomorrow. We're going to have a live stream tomorrow afternoon, probably about 1 or 2 o'clock, and I'll share with you some other of the amazing things that have been happening because it is nonstop, and really the action even hasn't kicked off. They've opened up the festival hall, if you will. You can go in and see all the people who've set up their booths, but the actual events, the actual speakers, that begins about 4 o'clock today, and it goes all the way through Sunday. So there's so much more left of TPUSA and SAS live here in Tampa, and we will be bringing it all to you. Make sure you subscribe. If you're not subscribed to this channel, whether you're watching on YouTube or Rumble or X, if you're not subscribed to the podcast, then you want to make sure you're doing both of those things because you're not going to want to miss any of this content. And if you're not subscribed, I fear you will miss some of this content. So do that now. We will be back in just a few minutes if you can join us. If not, that's okay too. Keep coming back every single day that we're here because we've got information, we've got entertainment, we've got inspiration so that you can be prepared, so that you can know the truth, so that you can know who your enemies are, and most importantly, how to beat them. And together, if we do that every single day, you, me, and everyone here at TPUSA will save the Republic. All right. I'll be back in like 15 minutes. Go to the bathroom, get a snack, whatever, and I'll see you in 15 minutes.